Hello everyone, welcome to our live session. My name is Matthew Wenger, and I'm an education program manager here at Stewart Observatory and the University of Arizona. And this is for the channel Active Galactic Videos. These bi-weekly discussions, live sessions, are so that we can have a conversation about science communication and science communication videos. We're here to answer questions about the latest video that we've released. So today we're going to be talking about our most recent Women of Discovery video with Ekta Patel, who is a graduate student here at the University of Arizona.
Graduating this May.
How exciting.
Congratulations, Ekta.
Yay! So we're going to be discussing that video. And then also, if you have experiences, we're hoping to engage with our viewers who also have some experience with creating videos or creating science communication videos or other products, and have some of your expertise, because we have questions of our own on how to improve the quality and the process of our videos. So because we're a university, one of the focuses is on learning and improving ourselves. So I'm going to quickly introduce my colleague here and let her introduce herself. So why don't you tell people who you are?
I'm Carolyn McKee. I am a videographer, editor, and animator at Active Galactic Videos, and I was responsible for editing the Women of Discovery video as well as animating it.
Excellent. So there was actually a larger team involved with this. Unfortunately, this is the last day of classes at the university, and so most of the other two people who are involved with the creation of the video we're not able to be here for that. And that's going to be true of several of our videos going forward, because we've got like 10 videos in the can. And so we're going to do our best to get everybody who is involved in those back for the live sessions. But so there may be some questions that I will have to answer because I've talked with them, or that we may not even know the answers to because we weren't there when the video was filmed. So let's go back again and remind ourselves, what was the purpose of this series of videos? Because this was really your idea. This was your brainchild. So talk to me about the inspiration behind the series.
I think the inspiration behind the series is just as I've gotten more involved in science communication in general, I think that I've really been in awe of all of the women that I have met during these just different experiences. Our first was Claire Max, and she was one of my first big interviews, and so I thought that just celebrating women in science interested me personally. It actually, I take it back, it started as an Instagram kind of feed of our Women Wednesday. I don't remember what we called it, but it was like women of history and science, and then it sort of evolved from there of like, I think that people would be really interested in this as a general topic. And I pitched it, and people glommed onto it, and I think we've made some really good ones. We've met some wonderful people. Cool.
And then one of the reasons I was interested in this series as well is because I have been involved in science education and science communication for a long time. And I remember when I was an undergraduate, I worked for an outreach program called the University of Illinois Physics Van. And one of the goals that we had always set for ourselves was trying to get more girls and women interested in science as a career. And so one of our very explicit goals when we were doing these outreach shows was to get girls interested in science. And so that's been something that I've been working on or interested in for a long time. So I was pleased when you pitched this idea, and that we finally had a team of people who were able to create something that I thought we could be proud of, and really highlight some of the amazing women in science. And also, I think I'm really proud that we have a team that is with so many women.
All
involved.
Women who have worked on the Women of Discovery
That's
videos.
True, and that wasn't even, I don't think, purposeful.
No, it wasn't purposeful. We just have so many wonderful women at Active Galactic Videos.
Yeah, we do. It's fantastic. I mean, we have
shout out to Vicky behind the camera.
Right, we have great guys on our team, but it's really is like a good 50-50.
We've got a good group, good balance here.
And so and like I said, I don't even think that was purposeful. We just have had, the opportunity to hire really great people from the film department, and people who have come to us have been interested, and we've been lucky that there have been women involved in that and interested in the project. So thank you.
Thank you
For being fantastic and available and interested. So how did you get a hold of Ekta? How did you find out about her? Tell me about the process of getting in touch with her and gaining access.
I found out about Ekta through Melissa, actually. Melissa being a part of the film school here.
So who's Melissa?
So Melissa is another part of our Active Galactic team. She is one of our science folks. So actually in Active Galactic Videos, it's really fun to be able to collaborate with film and science geeks. Both geeks, film geeks, science geeks. And I think we collaborate really well, and it's fun to be able to, I have to figure out how to change my language to match you, and you have to figure out how to change your language to match me. But anyway, back to the point, Melissa was one of the first people interested in the Women of Discovery, and she was kind of my producer in a way of finding people who she either knew through the program or she had just talked to in the hallways to find people to do interviews. So Ekta was one of the people that she pitched, and I was really excited to actually have a grad student as Ekta be a grad student, because what I really wanted was I wanted to show you very women who were very successful in their careers, established careers, but I also wanted people to be able to see this is sort of how the journey goes for women through, because she talks about her undergrad and she talks about her her graduate research as well, but I kind of started the video with her undergrad experience, and she kind of talks about some of the hardships she had in undergrad, and then she's talking about her post work or her postdoc work and her future potential careers, because I thought it was important to find somebody sort of smack dab in the middle who would give a different sort of perspective. So that's what I was excited about for Ekta.
Excellent. And so we have, I have some things that I wanted to bring up in terms of the creation of this video, and then we have some questions from the audience from the YouTube channel that we're going to get to. So I wanted to talk about quickly, since you weren't involved in the filming, I don't expect you to have the answers to these things, but I wanted to talk briefly about some of the challenges that we had with filming this video. And I will say that this video has been a long time in the making. So this was one of the video. I mean, all of these women,
last March.
Right. I would say all of these videos were filmed last year, and so, or not last. Yeah, I guess it was last year. I think
this last March is when we filmed.
Okay, so we filmed her last March, and and some of them were filmed at VidCon, in July, and I just we've had challenges with all of these videos, and some of it's because we haven't had as much control over our environment. So with some of the other, with Dr. Daubar and with Dr. Christensen, we were kind of on their turf, and we couldn't set up. We didn't have a room where we could light everything and control the sound, and that was a challenge. There were servers buzzing and whirring behind walls, and people walking through hallways and things. And this was kind of in that same vein. And so I would say that we want to acknowledge that there were some challenges with this video, and there were the two are that I think we made a poor choice of background, of backdrop to put her against. So I mean, she was so this was filmed in the old observatory, and is that where her? I think that might be where her office. I don't know why we chose that location.
I think it was her office.
Okay, so I think that it was where her office was located. And they've since relocated a bunch of the grad students, but that's where the grad student offices were in the old observatory building, and it's a neat old building, but it's got a lot of dark wood, and it's really echoey, and it was not an optimal environment, and this is one of those things where sometimes you get one shot to interview somebody because they've got busy schedules. And so we took it, and
I think another challenge, if I remember correctly, was that we could only send one video person, which sometimes is totally fine, but then sometimes it becomes a little bit overwhelming. Like, she couldn't light it. She was probably trying to do sound and video at the same time, and that's probably because her schedule and Ekta's schedule met at a pinpoint, and no other, because we're also full-time students.
Right, exactly. And so
working on all of
everybody
these.
is, we have a couple of part-time videographers who help us out. So that's one of the things that Carolyn does, and Victoria, but they were students before
When this was filmed,
they joined us as part-time staff, and so we either don't have people who are here or people have classes, and so I agree that, and so when you have only one video person to run everything, then you're trying to make decisions about, does it look okay? Is there another location where we could shoot not conveniently?
While also being very convenient for the subject and not putting it on them. And just speaking from experience of having that happen to me as a video person, not on this particular video, but on past videos, then I can sort of empathize with the, shoot, I gotta get the camera set up, and the boom, and So it takes practice to be able to do that very skillfully.
And then another skill is in post being able to edit the all of the different pieces. So, and then making these kind of artistic choices and decisions about whether to brighten up the video, and are you going to be able to match that all the way through and all the clips, and then clean up the audio. And it turns out that using the default settings and clicking a button to denoise it is not sufficient to bring out audio in a really terrible video or in a really terrible recording.
And we have certain sort of specialists like Vicky Pereira, who is kind of one of our sound gurus. I'm not the sound guru, and I'm the one who tried to fix the sound on this video because I had more confidence in myself than I should have. But that's okay. Fake it till you make it. And I think that it also, I edited the video, so when I was doing the sound, I've heard it so many times, so I was like, oh yeah, I can hear it, no problem. But I don't have as an attuned ear. You really have to ask for help and take it to the specialists.
Yeah. So the original recording, like I said, was in an echoey environment, and we're still not entirely sure what happened with the sound. We think it was either that the mic wasn't hooked up correctly, or that we had a bad cable or something.
It was a bad cable, because we had that in other instances too.
Right, but the memory that everybody has of this is that in the headphones, the audio sounded okay.
Yeah.
And then when we got it back to the studio, back to the office, and downloaded the video, it sounds like a freight train is driving through the interview.
Really, really
and
does.
it's really, and you can't, listening to the video that's on YouTube that we posted is actually the fixed version.
Yeah.
Right? That's
and the before and after is intense.
Right, the first attempt at fixing it. And so at some level, we just had to say, this is what we got to work with. And we could have chosen not to release it, but I hate to waste videos, and especially with somebody like Ekta that was excited about participating with us.
She's
and
fabulous.
Was excited about the video coming out, and so I'm a little disappointed that we couldn't force it to be better based on the raw material that we had. But that's what we had to work with. So another question I have is, did you try and brighten up the image at all? Did you mess with those?
No, I
didn't. The visual settings?
I didn't mess with the visuals.
Did you not think it was?
I really didn't think about that actually until now. Again, just because I had been looking at it for so long that it got to the point where it just wasn't really bothering me as much as it may have on a first sort of viewer glance. And I don't think nobody really mentioned it to me in the beforehand when I had passed through the video, but thinking about it now, I'm like, yeah, that would have made a big difference.
Yeah, and I guess I hadn't really considered trying to lighten it up. Again, sometimes things look different on different monitors, and you're like, well, I'm working with this and it's not too bad, and see it in every different environment where it's going to show up. So kind of in retrospect, that's something that we thought of.
Yeah.
So one question that we do have from a viewer is, who chose to put the music over an already hard to hear audio track? And can you talk a little bit about that?
That was me. Yeah, because I think that, I mean, this was sort of like where my mind wasn't critically thinking, whereas it was more on sort of like, well, we've talked so much about how music impacts the emotion of the video and it really keeps the video moving. So that's what I was thinking when I put sort of our standard, and we have the same music for all of the Women of Discovery videos to make them sort of a match set. So that's where my mind was. And like I said, when I was editing the video, I knew what she was saying. So your brain tricks you into thinking, well, and if you don't have that attuned ear for sound design and for post sound, which is, I've known a lot of post sound people and they're my best friends and I respect what they do so much because I don't have that skill the way they might not have some of my skills, etc. So, my brain was just like, I can understand what she's saying. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then another question came in, and it was about the review process, and that was another place where this video we had kind of a breakdown in our traditional review process. And so typically we've got several videos that are almost ready for release, and if one isn't working out, we can throw another one in. And if I review one and I say that it needs to be edited, then we have time to edit it. And in general, we try and have the videos posted to YouTube, or at least reviewed a week ahead of time. And in this one, we ran out of time.
Mm-hmm. And that's another just sort of life situation thing. I had been sort of absent from the office for a while because I'm working another job. So it was just like, yeah, I can make it to the office. Oh, I can't make it to the office right now. I can't make it to the office. So it was really just sort of like fell behind. And then my unobjective ears were like, I think it's fine to go. And you really need objectivity in filmmaking, or else you
But it's also on me too. And I take some of the responsibility because typically I do a final review of the video before it goes up, and even this video didn't go up until like the day before it was posted, and I did not make enough time, carve enough time out to go review the video one final time and make a go or no go decision, because I think if I had watched it, I would have pushed it back a day or two so that we could fix some of the audio issues. In particular, the music placement. I think that's one of my biggest criticisms of the video is that like it's hard to hear the video. The audio continues loud for so long, and then it doesn't get quiet enough to hear when she starts talking. So it's because we didn't actually use our traditional review process because we ran out of time, and that's a hard lesson to learn, right? So it's probably better to not release a video than to release a video that you're not
super proud of,
or that you haven't done everything you can to try and fix it. Like I still think there are some things that we can or could do to this video to bump it up. It's not like, we are working with challenging raw material, but I still think that there are things that we could do to improve this one. So we're going to do a version 2. So for those of you who are subscribed to the channel, we're going to do we're going to see what we can do to fix the audio. We're at least going to move the soundtrack around a little bit and bring that volume down a little bit. So we are going to release a version 2, I don't know, next week or something like that. It'll just be the exact same content, but it'll be a second version of it where we're going to try and clean up some of those audio difficulties and those audio artifacts. So,
and I will say that in terms of like lessons, that like being able to talk about the mistakes and things like that here in the discussion, but also just like in general, you make the mistakes and it's okay. You're like, don't let the anxiety, like, release the version 2 and don't let it get to you. And I also think that's like sort of what Ekta, bringing it all back around, Ekta had a similar mentality when she was talking about her undergrad, because again, I wanted to give sort of like a perspective of not just people who make it look easy, right? Like Claire Max and Professor Dalbar and etc. I mean, not to say Ekta does make it look easy. Ekta's awesome. But she does talk about sort of, well, you know, I wasn't doing great in my physics classes, but you needed physics in order to be an astronomer, so I, like, wasn't loving it, and it wasn't until I hit research that I really kind of found my groove and really sort of liked this. And so I think that it's just sort of not letting the anxieties get to you of, oh, I did something wrong, but yeah, you did.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, we're always learning here. So, you know, every video is an opportunity to, for one person to learn something and another person to learn something else. I mean, I think another thing that we've learned from these series of videos is, you know, things like, you know, making sure the equipment is set up and thinking about what's behind the person. And not that we didn't know those lessons, but they're good reminders that we need to keep those at the top of your mind, because as soon as you get distracted by, you know, hurrying to set up a camera, you start forgetting about framing and what's behind them and how it's going to look, you know, and whether we need to add a light or things like that. Yeah. All things that I think could have potentially helped with this video.
Yeah.
So I see we have a question from a viewer. Victoria, do you want to let us know what they're asking?
So viewer Mr. B asked, where is Ekta Patel? I'm assuming, like, in reference to where she works.
Right, so the question is, where is Ekta Patel? Right this instant, I don't know.
Probably getting ready for graduation.
But in general...
she's a PhD student at University of Arizona.
So here at our university.
Stewart
so she's in our
Observatory.
department.
Mm-hmm. Doing wonderful things.
Yeah, and so can you talk a little bit about what she talked about as far as her research? Can you remind us what she was working on?
She, and excuse my lack of
I don't expect
knowledge,
a detailed technical explanation.
She is looking at formation of galaxies.
Okay.
So, and I believe she's using, what is the space shuttle that's taking pictures, like, instantaneously? I'm sorry. I went down a tangent. I couldn't finish. But she is basically making models and then of how galaxy formation works. And there's actually we put some of the footage of the different models she part of the team that she's been working with, of how they've been sort of researching this, and the models, I could watch them forever.
They're beautiful.
They're very beautiful.
And I want to say that I thought Victoria did a fantastic job with the thumbnail for this live session we just updated for the video. It is gorgeous. Like that simulation.
Yeah.
that, you know, that false color simulation, and then, you know, Vicky did a white outline around her that kind of, I think, really sets that off.
Wonderful.
I think that is one of our best thumbnails.
Yeah.
And that's not even, I mean, that's good artistic choice, but it's, you know, those are scientific models that people are actually creating and working with.
Yeah, and so she's using these models in order to just see how galaxies form, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's and again, that's something that we're still, you know, learning about, is, you know, the origins of large scale structure in the universe. And so there are people who use these supercomputer simulations to you know, they set up initial conditions in the universe and then let things run for you know, millions of fake years.
And it's just come back to me. It's
Billions
the
of
Gaia.
fake years.
It's the Gaia mission that she references. Of they're comparing these sort of simulations and models to the Gaia mission. And for those of you who don't know, the Gaia mission is taking just like rapid photos of like once every, I don't know, something ridiculous, so that they can compare their simulations, but also sort of compare that to reality,
data.
which is really
Interesting.
interesting. And that's sort of a new thing. So look up the Gaia mission as well.
Cool. So I don't see any additional questions on the feed right now. So if anybody has any last minute comments or suggestions or questions, one of the comments that we got on one of our last videos was about our thumbnails. And so that's something that we're going to be working on. And we thought differently about the thumbnail for this video. And we're going to keep trying to work on those thumbnails. And, I guess I had taken for granted how important a thumbnail could be for videos. But one of our viewers on the previous live session suggested that if we want to grow our viewership, that maybe rethinking how we do some of our thumbnails would be a good idea. And so we are taking that suggestion and trying to look at other YouTubers. So one of the questions is, do you have other science communicator YouTubers that have really great thumbnails that you think we could learn from? Or do you guys make really great thumbnails that you think we can learn from? And what are some of the things that you take into consideration when making a good thumbnail? Because one of the things that we see a lot is, first you want to have compelling visuals, right? Like, and we know that oftentimes having a person in the thumbnail is compelling because you're more likely to click on something that looks friendly and welcoming and human, as opposed to just a random picture that you don't know what it is. So if we had just shown a galaxy simulation picture, you might not know what it is and might not click on it because you don't have any context. And so I think that having a person's face next to a beautiful picture is more clickable. And I know that somebody suggested that Derek from Veritasium makes really good thumbnails, and so we've done a little bit of review on that. Do you have anybody that you think makes particularly good thumbnails? Any YouTubers in general?
Not off the top of my head. No. In terms of just like logos in general, if we're talking about that, I really like Skunk Bear's logo.
Oh yes.
But that's not his thumbnails particularly, but his logos are nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then we've gone back and forth about having words in, like, text in the thumbnails, because finding a font is always a struggle. I know it seems like a silly thing, but like there are fonts that don't work, and I'm not even sure I know what makes a font work. All I can do is tell when
intuition.
All I can tell is when a font doesn't work. I'm like, I don't like that one. That's crummy.
No, I agree. I mean, in terms of thumbnails, my opinion was always kind of like, well, I don't want to make it too cheesy, but I see, like, comparing the, this thumbnail does, like, put effort forth to draw you in versus that, but it's a fine line, in my opinion. Like, in terms of what I would click on, I'm not going to click on something that's maybe too in my face, but that's a personal thing.
I mean, there are the clickbaity things where it's like it's like yellow and blue text where it's like, and they use some sensational title and it looks like I don't want to criticize anybody in particular, but I mean, I think you all know where you've seen those before, where it's like this gaudy yellow or blue or red, like primary color backgrounds and just like this electric looking text, and it's just like in your face. And
I'll avoid those.
And again, I've seen some of Derek Muller's videos where his thumbnails, a lot of his videos don't have text, which means that you have to be really thoughtful and careful about the images that you're selecting so that they don't look too, so that they do look like something you'd want to click on, as opposed to something that's so unfamiliar that you're like, I don't know what that is, and I'm too busy or tired to want to figure it out. Okay, Victoria has...
Yeah, I just want to let you guys know, Mr. B commented again, he said, or he, she, I don't know, said, I'm happy you guys are highlighting women in the science community, keep it up with the videos.
So are we.
They also said, Tom Scott makes good thumbnails, and I thought that was funny. because we did make a video with Tom Scott.
Oh yeah, you're right. Tom Scott does. Well, and they probably do know that we've made a video with Tom Scott because a lot of our viewers come from that collaboration. But yes,
It was a fun
you're
time
right.
in our lives.
Tom does make really good videos, and I think he's always, if I recall, he's always in his thumbnails, and we. Part of that is that it's a friendly face, but part of it's because it's Tom, and you know Tom,
what you're getting
and you know what you're getting
into.
yourself into. And so we have not had it. We've gone around with this, trying to decide whether we should have consistent presenters on camera, but we have such turnover with our students.
Sort of team, yeah.
And so, like, you might see somebody on one of our videos, but not recognize them. And so, will people click on it because it's a person, even if they don't recognize them? So using the subjects of our videos is a good way, but they're not going to be familiar people because they've got, because they're people that we're highlighting because you probably haven't heard of them, and that's why we made a video about them, because they're interesting and you haven't heard about them. So anyway, thank you very much for that suggestion. Anybody who watches this after the fact, if you have comments, please leave those below. I also wanted real quickly to mention, I don't know if you saw in the news, but the Jason team is losing its funding.
Oh no!
And so
Interesting.
Yeah, so Claire Max, who was our very first
Women of
Discovery video.
She was the first woman to be a part of the Jason team.
Yeah, so the Jason team, for those of you who don't know, is a group of scientists, an advisory group to the Department of Defense. And I guess the department has decided that they no longer are useful, or that they no longer, either way, they don't want to fund it anymore. And so I just thought that was an interesting connection to one of our previous videos, and we should go back and post that.
I don't think she talks about it much in her Women of Discovery, but she does talk about Jason in our Adaptive Optics video,
go watch.
We used Claire Max for 2 videos because we were so excited to have Claire Max.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And so if you haven't watched the Adaptive Optics video, that's where she does talk about that. And actually, she's mentioned in connection with the Jason team by Freeman Dyson. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining us today. We've run over our time a little bit. Again, we are Active Galactic Videos. Thank you for joining us for this live session about our Women of Discovery video, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you very much.